When my mom and I were sick, so many people took advantage of us, of our situation. So many people were interested in looking out for themselves first, rather than helping people in dire need. For us, it was extremely difficult to get anybody out to help fix our water damage. We lived in a very, very small town, and it took everything to just try to get somebody to come out and actually fix it. One time, we finally got somebody to come out, but they couldn't fix it that day. They came out and charged us $80 just to come to our house and check it out, and then told us how much it was going to be to fix everything. And the person's response was, "Oh, when it rains, it pours." And I know that was their way of making light of it, but it was just so wrong on so many levels to say that comment. I mean, we had water damage, so when it rained, it literally did pour, so it was a little insensitive. And I still, to this day, see and have called so many people to see if I could link up with them, maybe work together with them, or more specifically, if they could pass my information along to people. Because I've healed, and there aren't that many people out there helping people heal. Most doctors don't even know how to heal people from toxic mold. And the amount of times I've heard about people getting charged thousands of dollars to have their mold removed, while others are charging hundreds. Mold testing is sometimes insanely expensive. Or when I did call people, there were a lot of people who were like, okay, how can you help me now? And it's like, I'm sorry that my business has a harder time helping you, but you could help me. Like, I'd love to figure out a way where we can help each other, I guess. But, what I'm doing, it would be kind of wild to recommend people go to one specific place in the United States, whereas, my business can reach anybody across the world. I just hate that in the toxic mold community, or in the health community in general, there's still this business aspect of things where it's like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's like, no, we're helping people. This isn't about who can benefit from this. Some people might point the finger at me and try to say, well, why are you charging people? The information that I have took me years and years and years and years and years of research. I do give it out for free a lot of the times. I give it out for cheap prices a lot of the times. This information is invaluable. I also know there's a lot of people with mold in their house or toxic mold symptoms that don't really have big toxic mold symptoms yet, and who are still able to work and have high-paying jobs and can afford. I charge the people who can afford it so I can do this full time, but I don't charge everyone. So I filmed the first part as a TikTok, and I kind of regret that because I kind of left it as a downer. And I just watched a video last night that was telling me, or that was mentioning how when we watch things, especially as people who deal with hypervigilance or chronic stress or just whatever, people who want to lessen their stress levels, they really should be watching videos that leave things on a positive note if there is a problem. So I might have to film a part 2 to my TikTok, because I don't like putting that out there, just leaving things as a negative anymore. I mean, I don't know. So but I did want to add to that that whole thought by saying my hope in this, and I think there's a very good possibility that this will come true, but my hope is that more people who have dealt with toxic mold, who have dealt with the problems and the sickness, will maybe turn their pain into a business. Because I feel like we need more people who've actually dealt with toxic mold in the toxic mold spaces. Because, I mean, once you've had so many people take advantage of you, it makes you think in a different way. It really does. It makes you start thinking about how you're affecting other people, and am I taking advantage of other people? How do I prevent myself from taking advantage from other people? How do I prevent this from being a negative on that other person, or negatively affecting them or harming them in some way? And how do I always offer them some sort of benefit? Now, you know, if any of you guys shoot me a message about my toxic mold business and like wanting help from it, relief from it, you know, I'm just gonna say right now, like I never leave people with nothing, because I know how it feels to be searching and searching and searching for help and receive absolutely nothing. And that was what I experienced for years. And once you go through that for years, where you're searching and there's no remediation, there's no satisfaction, there's nothing helping you, it really does something to your mind and your perception of people and humanity. So, you know, I would like to make this a business. I call it my business, even though I you know, it's slow. It's building, but it's slow building. But I'd like to turn this into like a full-time business, or at least, I mean, yeah, I'd be even happy with part-time, but I really want to turn it into something, and in order to do that, I do have to make money from it. You know, like in order for me to have enough time in the world, in the day to help people, I do have to make money from it. I would love to just spend all day, every day helping people by giving them what they need, giving them this information. I know that takes money. I know that any business takes money, but I also never ever want to take too much from somebody, you know? And I also know that my experience isn't everyone's experience. There are plenty of people out there, and I've seen this, there are plenty of people out there who maybe have toxic mold in their house, but they immediately were able to get rid of it. They have some of the symptoms, but they're still able to work their high-paying job. You know, they have other family members who are also working high-paying jobs. I mean, there's so many, you know, people living in mansions who've dealt with toxic mold who want their symptoms to be, you know, aided, even if it's like, oh, I sometimes feel a little sluggish. And I get that. And I don't invalidate, I don't discredit their toxic mold symptoms too, because, I mean, we all have different levels of what hardship is. You know, their hardship, I'm not going to sit there and say is nothing and it should be discredited. But I do think, well, if they can pay $100, then that's great, because that means that I don't have to spend $100 worth of my time somewhere else. I can spend $100 of my time helping somebody else who can't pay the $100. You know what I mean? Who can't pay even $10. Yeah. And maybe in the future I'll find better ways of going about this. Obviously, I'm very new to all of this. So it's like, you know, I'm just one person sitting here being like, okay, how do I offer the best service to somebody without stepping on my own toes? But if toxic mold has taught me anything, it's, you know, a big part of, I mean, it's taught me so many things, so I don't know, but a big part of my growth has been having to learn more kindness, I guess. A kindness that I don't think anybody can truly understand unless they've experienced it or witnessed it on such a high level. You know? I used to be such hustle culture type of a girl. I believed in that kind of stuff before I was even on the internet. Before I was even like, I only joined Twitter this year, quite literally. So, for me, that was it. Like, I was born with that type of a mindset of like, well, if you want to achieve your goals, you better hustle. You better get that 2 or 3 jobs, save up your money, invest, turn that money into a profit. Like, I was such that girl. Like, we see all these hustle culture tweets and stuff. And I'm like, oof, I was that when I was 13. Like, I was that. And I didn't get any help because I wasn't I was not raised in that type of a family at all. Like, that's how some of these things are just like, were you born with it? Like, I don't know, because that was so opposite of anybody in my family. Like, most of my family could work a dead-end job and be like, well, guess I'm poor forever. And so it's like, it's just interesting how that is. Like, I wasn't raised around that. I had no exposure to that at all. But that's just, but that's who I was for a long time. And now, I don't know, it's really hard to be that way to such a high degree. I think I still have some aspects of that, like some parts of that I think are a healthy mindset, but I also am able to see now that, like, well, sometimes, this is something I think hustle culture and all of that will never understand, is that sometimes some people out here are working themselves to the bone and they have seen no profit from it. So I think that type of mindset sees people who have nothing and they think, well, they've done nothing with their lives. They've done nothing their whole lives. And it's like, no, like, you really can't tell the level of work somebody has done based off what they have. You really cannot. And that's a huge other thing that I've learned in mold, is that you really cannot judge a person by how they look at all. I mean, I've talked about this in one of my other videos, but I mean, even down to my own weight, like, I don't know many people who would look at me and have no judgment on how I became this weight, Like, I think most people assume, oh, they are that heavy, they are that weight, they must eat a lot of fattening foods, they must eat a lot. They probably eat pizza at least once a week, or several times a week, right? Or fast food of some sort. And it's like, so little of our culture even understands the concept of chronic stress and what that does to the body and the inflammation that sends to the body. It's wild. And that's just one example. I mean, we so often look at people who are living in poverty, and it's like, we tend to assume a lot about them. Like, well, maybe they aren't good with their money. Maybe they, I could go on and on and on, but it's like, no, maybe that person was fighting to stay alive. And the fact that they're here right now is already like a miracle. Like, that's already proof of how hard they've worked. Or even mental stuff. I mean, you really cannot tell. You really cannot tell. I think that's, if anything, mold has just taught me these things, to be more kind, to assume less. And I used to assume a lot when I was younger. And sometimes I say young as though I'm like 50 years old. Anyway, just on my thoughts for today.